So,
Yes.
thank you. So, let me start with networking utilities. So, in that, the first utility which we will see is the PS ping. So, let's see how this PS ping works. So, basically, you can see here that it says that PS ping implements ping functionality. So, in ping functionality, also it implements TCP ping, UDP or TCP latency, and UDP or TCP bandwidth measurement. So basically we use ping command to check whether the service is running or it is not running. So you might be aware of normal ping command, so which is basically used to check whether the service is on or off. So similarly we can use PS ping command. So let's say for example I'll say PS ping and you can specify here any domain name. So now you can see here that it is sending the reply. I am receiving the reply from the specified domain name. You can try some other domain names. So that means that when I receive response, that means that the service is up. Of course, there are some other options. So you can even check these options. So you can say that there are some parameters such as minus h, minus I, minus l, minus n. We'll check for minus h, which basically displays the histogram. Yeah. So you can see that it is displaying the latency count this time. So you can see here that for some things it is displaying the value as 2, right? For some things it is displaying the value as 1, and for some other things it is displaying the value as 0. Now what happens is when we draw a distribution, so we can take these values and draw a normal distribution. So it's going to look like a bell curve. So basically it helps us to understand the distribution of values.
అది వాడు ఈగలు వస్తున్నప్పుడు అది వాడు
ఎక్కడుంది
అది పెట్టండి వాడు ఛార్జ్ పెట్టాడు
ఈగ ఎక్కడుంది
అక్కడ పెట్టు
So we can try some of these commands. Last one is the name of the system or name of the server. Or if you want, you can also specify the IP address. So now you can see here that I am receiving more number of iterations, more number of responses, because I have specified number as 10. So it is sending 10 packets and it is saying that 10 packets are received. So it's the ping statistics for the IP address. That is 103.21.58.165. So it says that there is no packet loss, and it is also showing what is the minimum time and what is the maximum time and what is the average time in milliseconds for receiving the response or a reply from the server. Now similarly, we go for the next command. So in next command we are trying for 100 iterations and one warm-up iteration. Again I need to change the system name. At this time I am adding the port number. So 80 is the port number which is used for HTTP protocol. So there are different types of protocols. If you want to access information on web, then you should be using HTTP protocol. If you want to access the information on web in a secure way, you need to use HTTPS protocol. Then similarly to exchange files, there is file transfer protocol. To exchange emails, that is to send and receive email, you need SMTP. That is simple mail transfer protocol. And each of these protocols are associated with a port number. So by default, the HTTP protocol uses port number as 80. Of course, you can go to the server and you can modify these port numbers and you can have custom port numbers assigned to the HTTP protocol. So even that is possible. But for that, you need to go into the depth of a server file, server configuration file, and modify the port number. So now you can see here that what's happening. So we executed a command which is similar to the previous one. So in the previous command, all 10 iterations have been shown. But now it is not showing all 100 iterations. So it has completed ping test for 101 iterations, that is 100 normal iterations and one warm-up iteration, and it is now just displaying the summary. So it is displaying the summary that 100 packets were sent, 100 packets were received, there is no packet loss, there is 0% packet loss, and it is showing the minimum time, maximum time and the average time. Okay, so but now it is showing only the summary. It is not showing each and individual iteration. So next check this command. Now what I'll do is I'll modify the IP address again. Generally, whatever IP address it is displaying now, it's the IP address of a local machine or a local network. So let's see what output we will get first. So it says that the requested address is not valid in its context. So now I'll modify the IP address. So instead of 192.168.2.2, I'll specify it as 50.1. So it's saying that allow access, I'll say allow access. Now to know the IP address of your own machine, you can type ipconfig command. So when you type ipconfig command, you will get the output like this here. So you can see here that when we say ipconfig, it is showing Windows IP configuration. it says media disconnected. So it is showing IP version 6. So IPv4 address is 192.168.126.1. Then subnet mask is also displayed here 255.255.255.0. Okay, so now you can also see here the IP address associated with the Wi-Fi connection. So IPv4 is 192.168.29.225. It's also showing subnet mask and the default gateway. So now it is saying that waiting for TCP connection on 192.168.50.1.5000. Okay, so there is no other TCP connection which is requesting this service. So it will not get a response. So let me stop the service by pressing Control C. Let me try with some other IP address. So let me wait for a couple of minutes and see whether we'll get any response here. Okay, so it says source port is required. Okay, fine. So it is waiting for the TCP connection, but there is no TCP connection on my side, so it keeps on waiting. Maybe we can try with some other domain name. So let me try this. Yeah, so it says that error binding TCP socket. So basically it says that I need a client program which can send request to the server when it is listening for a request. So even this command will not work. Okay, let's check this command. Okay, so now you can see here that it says that the remote computer refused the network connection. But if it had accepted the connection, then it could have displayed the latency information. That is fine, but uh, the way ping command is used by normal users and by hackers is different. I think I might have covered this point, but still I'll cover this point in brief again. So basically, the basic usage of ping command is to test the availability of a service. But hackers can use it to launch denial of service attacks. So generally, the ping request is the interrupt service. Interrupt is that kind of service whenever the service request is received, it gets the highest priority. So since it gets highest priority, it keeps aside other service requests and executes only the or serves only the ping request. So hackers can write a simple script, just 2 or 3 lines script, where they will be pinging a server or pinging a system infinitely. So in that way, your server will be busy in serving the request, serving your ping commands request, and it will not provide service to others. So resulting denial of service to others. But there are mechanisms to avoid the number of ping requests from a specified source. Next is share enum command. Share enum. So share enum command will not work on the system because it has to get the information from network BIOS. So we know that every system has got BIOS, that is basic input output system. So BIOS is that system. You can enter into the BIOS when you are
సౌండ్ వస్తుంది అక్కడ
starting
పెడితే
your system, when you are booting your system. Okay. Right, so to run share enum command, you should be on a network and network OS should be installed on the network. Okay, so then only it is possible to get the information from the network BIOS using share enum command.
చేతులు పెట్టదు కాలితే
Next is ps file command. Let's execute ps file command. Okay, so now again it says that error listing remotely, open files on desktop 2LH45S2. This is the name assigned to my system. Okay, so again it says that access is denied. If the access is allowed, then it could have displayed all the open files on this machine.
నాకు మొదలే ఊరుకుని షాక్ పడుతున్నా
is TCP view command. Let's type TCP view. Yeah. So now you can see here that it is displaying lot of information. For example, it is displaying the process name, it is displaying the process ID, then the protocol used. Okay, so protocol is TCP, TCP/V6, UDP and UDP/V6. So these are the four protocols which have been used by the processes here. Then what's the state? Is the connection established? Is it listening? Is it close wait? Is it again established? Now note here that you are getting state information only for TCP protocol, because TCP is a connection oriented protocol. UDP is a connectionless protocol. So now you can also see here that it is also displaying the local address. So let me click on local address. So when I click on local address, I think it got sorted. Now you can see here that there are few IP addresses which are being displayed. So first IP address is 127.0.0.1. It's a local IP address. It's IP address assigned to the local host. It is also called as loopback address. That means you are referring to the same system on which you are working. Okay. So those who have hosted some web applications, they know, they have the idea of this IP address 127.0.0.1. So when we develop web applications, we need to test it locally on a server which is installed on our machine. So in that case, how we can access it is, we can access it using this IP address, that is 127.0.0.1. Now you might have seen this IP address in our previous commands, 192.168.29.225. It's the IP address which is assigned to my Wi-Fi network, right? So similarly, there is one more IP address which belongs to my home network, that's 192.168.50.1. Now you can also see here that the IP address is displayed in hexadecimal format also. This is UDP/V6. Okay, whatever IP addresses you are seeing here, the one which is highlighted in blue color, it is IPv4, whereas the one which is highlighted in green, okay, so it's IPv6. So you can assign or you can cover more number of devices with IPv6. Now you can also see here the local port number to which these IP addresses are connected or they are bind to. Then it is also displaying the remote address. Now you can also observe the remote port column, see whether any file or any process is connected to any remote port. Okay, so you can see here that it is connected to one remote port, that is 443. So what are those applications? You can see here that WhatsApp.exe is connected, then web browser is connected, MSH is nothing but Microsoft Edge browser. Now you can also see here that multiple instances of WhatsApp have been connected. So if you double click on it, it will show you the file which is connected. So it is showing also the path. Now if you click on explore, it will take you to the folder where that file is present. So you can see here this file is present here in program files, Windows apps. So you can further investigate by uploading this file or by examining this file with the virus total, which we have seen in the previous class. So except port 443 and 0, we are not finding any other remote port. Now it is also displaying the create time, then the module name, then number of sent packets, number of received packets, number of sent bytes and number of received bytes. Okay, so this information is not available here. Now this is a very useful utility. You can filter the results here. Say for example, I don't want to display TCP v4. So I'll click on TCP v4 now. So you can see here that it is not displaying TCP v4. Similarly, I click on other options. So now you can see here that no result is being displayed. But now if I click on TCP v4, it's going to display only TCP v4 details and the process is suspended. So based on your requirement, you can select TCP v4, TCP v6, UDP v4 and UDP v6.
బయట బయట సౌండ్ వస్తున్నావు
So you can also filter based on the states.
వదిలేదులేము
So these are the different states available here, connection states.
ఎవరి దగ్గర
So
వస్తుంది
right now it is displaying all these states.
Gajendra, I think Abhay has raised his hand. I don't know whether out of mistake or he wanted to ask.
Yeah, that I just accidentally clicked it.
ठीक है, ठीक है.
Okay. Fine. So now you can see here that there are different states: closed, listen, SYN bit set, SYN bit received, then established, pin wait 1, pin wait 2, close wait, closing, acknowledgement, and so on. So again, you can filter based on these states. If you click invert, all will be unselected. If you click it again, then all will be selected. So based on your requirement, you can filter this. Now there is one more option here. You select any process
फोन नंबर है दोस्तों.
and go to connection
ये
and
नंबर है.
click on who is. So let me see for which process I can see who is. Yeah, for OneDrive I can see who is information. So let me see what information I'll get here. Okay, so it says that failed to get who is information. Okay, fine. So we have seen who is command also in our previous classes, which basically gets the information about the domain name, who owns the domain name, what are the contact details. So it is better that you protect your domain names whenever you are purchasing the domain name. So when you protect the domain name, your contact details will not be shared. So with that you can also avoid social engineering attacks. So social engineering is one of the most common attacks which are usually performed in 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 cyber attacks. See, if you want to become successful hacker, then you have to be the master of social engineering. Okay, with social engineering, you can hack any system. Even though you have set world's best password or world's toughest password, or it may mathematically, whatever password you have set, it may take mathematically say thousands of years. Even that can be broken in just few minutes if you master social engineering techniques. It has nothing to do with actually the technical aspects or using algorithms or using advanced systems. It's actually the gathering the information. So you can deceive a person to reveal the password. Now when I say resolve address, now you can see here that in some cases it is displaying the system name. It is displaying my system name. So that is desktop 12H4 5H2. Let me see, is there any other system apart from this? Because that gives me indication that there is something else. 365 36.5.2.0. I don't know what is that, but it's definitely not my system. For some things it is unable to resolve. And there is one more IP address also. It says that host process for Windows service. So it is better that you select resolve address option. There is something else, we need to investigate this, because it says that customer IP.bus.net. Now you can also check the properties. So either you can double click on any of these records, so it will display the properties for a particular process. Or you can go here and you can click on properties in the process menu. Then there is something called as kill option. So let me kill some processes. I'll try to kill WhatsApp process. Yeah, WhatsApp. Then I click on kill. So now you can see that it is displaying a message terminate process 2860. That is the process ID. So we can do some of these things or many of these things using command line also. But now we are doing it with the GUI. Okay. So now I'll say click OK. So that service has been terminated. Now there are different tools. Now if I say Control Alt Del also, I can terminate some processes. So I'll say Control Alt Del, then I'll go to Task Manager. So now here also you can see. Here also there are some processes and I can end them. So let me try to end some service which I am not using. select software update and I'll click here. Now you can see here that it displays end task option. Okay. Now again there are multiple options here, right, which we can achieve using some other tools. Now say for example if I click on end task, that process will end. Now similarly if you want more values, you can go to these options and select, that is memory values, disk values and network values. Now there is something called as create dump file. Okay, so now you can see here that it has created a dump file in the folder app data local temporary folders and brave crash handle.dmp. So usually the extension for dump file is dmp. So let's click on open file location. Okay, this is the file. Let me try to open it in notepad and see the content of this file here. Note here that the size of this dump file is huge. It's 54 MB. So that's why it's going to take some time to load. So let's wait for a couple of minutes. Yeah. So you can see here this is the content of our dump file. It's a huge file. But again you can see here that this is not in a readable format. So that means what is that you need again special tools to examine the content of these dump files. Okay, so you should configure your system in such a way that whenever it is creating a dump file, it should copy the useful information. Okay, so now it is copying everything. Now there are some commands where you can create mini dumps. So mini dumps are usually the smaller versions of the dump files and which consists of only the essential information. It doesn't consist of everything. So generally dump files are created whenever that process crashes. Crashing process means it has been terminated unexpectedly or not in a normal way. So let me close the task manager. So as I have told you now, right, the TCP view, whatever is possible in TCP view command, so some things are also possible with task managers. Okay, so this is about TCP view. You can also use a command called as TCP vcon. It takes few parameters. One is -a, which shows all endpoints. Then second one is -c, which is going to print the output as CSV, that is comma separated values. Then there is option called as -n, which will not resolve any addresses. Let me type TCP beacon minus A. So now you can see here whatever information you have seen on the GUI, the same information or similar information is being displayed. So it is displaying the process name, it is displaying the process ID, it is displaying the state, then it is also resolving the local address. Right? So same thing, whatever information you have seen graphically, the same information is shown on command line now. So it is also showing whether it is UDP v6 or TCP v6 or UDP or TCP. Now the drawback with command prompt is that you cannot filter the output based on your requirements. If you want to filter the output, then you have to write a custom command. So now you can see here. Now it is creating the output in comma separated values.
Being recorded.
So same output but in comma separated values. You can also mention specific process ID. So now I have specified here 3236 as the process ID. So let's wait for the output. Yeah. So now you can see here that I have filtered the output and I want to know details only about specific process. So for that I have specified the process ID as 3236. So there is a column, the third column. In the third column we are displaying the process IDs. Okay, so there are multiple processes which are running with the same name and same process ID, but on different protocols, but different IP versions. So you can see here that SVC host.exe with port number 3236 is running on UDP as well as UDP v6. So at least who is command we have seen in our previous session, so let's not cover it again. So next we have is process utilities. So in process utilities, first we have is the auto runs. Okay. So I think we have seen auto runs also in our previous class. So you can see here that it is displaying all the information related to the applications here. It is displaying in the description, publisher, image path, timestamp, and virus total information. So we have seen virus total in the previous class. Now again you can filter it with respect to these categories. For example, if I click on log on, so these are the log on applications displayed here. Right. So similarly, explorers. Then the process is running with Internet Explorer, scheduled tasks, print monitors, drivers, and so on. So if you double click on anything, it is going to show the properties. So in the properties, you can see that there are few tabs such as general, then digital signatures. Okay. So it says that the digest algorithm used is SHA-1. That means it is digitally signed and verified. So in the previous class, we used the sig check command for the same thing. Now we can also see here what are the group names and what are the user groups which can access this application. So it is these all application packages, all restricted application packages, system, administrators, users, and what kind of permission each group has. So you can see here administrators is having all kinds of permissions, users is having only read and execute permissions. Okay. So we can modify the permission also here. If you want to specify, then there's something called as full control. If you click on full control, then all permissions will be applied. Now note here that either if you click on full control in the allow column, it will allow all permissions. If you click on full control in the deny column, it will deny all permissions. That is read, write and execute. I think we have also seen a command which displays similar information. The details about the process. The previous versions, if there are any, there are no previous versions. So let me click OK. So there are few scan options here. Scan only per user locations, verify code signatures and check virustotal.com. So note here that we were doing the things manually in the previous class. Let me select this and click on rescan. Okay, so it's going to terms and conditions. So you need a professional version. You need to purchase a professional version and connect it. So once you connect, you can see the output. So you do not have to submit these processes one by one or individually. So directly this software tool will take care of it. You must agree to virus storage terms and conditions and say yes. Okay. So now you can see that it has started the rescan. So now you can see here that in the last column, okay, in the last column earlier the score was not displayed, but now it is displaying the score. Now there is something which is said not verified, and for that there is an error for Cisco Spark. Yeah, that's fine. But now you can see here that it has automatically submitted the request to the virushotel.com, and it has started scanning the processes, and it has also displayed the virus total score. So you can use these options, that is scan options, and select the options here and just click on rescan. So it has completed the rescan here. Okay, so next is handle tool. Now with the handle tool you can display all the files and directories which are open. So now you can see here there are so many files, so many files which are open. Okay. Now before discussing the output, we need to understand what is handle. Okay. So a handle is something where whenever we want to deal with files or the content stored in files, we need to get that content to the temporary location, okay, from which your program will access it. Say for example, I want to get the information from a file. Okay, so let's assume that the file name is test.txt. So I'll create a file handle. I'll open the file in the read mode or whatever, append mode or write mode. So when I open the file, the content of that file is stored in the handle. Now once I get the content of the file in the handle, my program, my source code, I can use and give the instructions or type the instructions, process the content of that file or modify the content of that file in the handle. So once it is done in the handle, then I am going to push that output to the file. So that's how it works. Now note here that there are so many handles which are created. Okay, that is because you are interacting with the front end of the application. You don't know what is happening in the back end. So in the back end, there are so many handles created temporarily because they want to get the information from the actual file to the temporary location for further processing. Now once the processing is done, they will again push back the output to the file. Now one important thing you should ensure here is that you should check whether your application is keeping all these handles open even after closing it or even after terminating it. If it is keeping the file handle open, that means that's a security concern. Okay, that's a bug in the program. So that needs to be corrected. This DLLs we have already seen. The next command is portmon. That's a port monitor utility. So this command again it will not work. It works on older versions of Windows and 32-bit operating system. So you can see here that nothing it is displaying. But there are sophisticated alternatives for Portmon. You can download and install them and check how they work. Otherwise, you have some commands like nmap. So let's see what's proc dump. The proc dump is again a process dump. So I have already shown you how you can create a process dump using task manager. So to create a process dump using task manager, just right click, go to task manager and right click on any process. Okay. So I can create a dump here. Okay. So when I create a dump file, it's going to create a complete dump file. Okay. It's going to create a core dump file. So there are two types of dump files. One is core dump, second one is mini dump. So core dump is larger in size compared to mini dumps. So the size of mini dump is usually 5 MB, whereas the size of core dump depends on the application. So let's say proc dump here. So now you can see here that it's asking me to enter the process ID. So to know the process ID, I'll execute a command called as ps list. So now I have got the process IDs. So this is the output of process ID process list command. That is name of the process ID, then thread, then CPU time, elapsed time. So some information it is displaying. Okay, so I am not able to see the process ID here in task manager, but I am seeing it in my command line. Okay, so let me create a process dump for process ID 1010672. Okay, let me check for some other process 19168. Okay, fine. So we'll try to create process dumps. Notepad says no process matching. Okay. Number 64.
Psychology.
So let me specify some other process ID. Process ID 3576.
Psychology.
Okay. So now you can see here that it has created first mini dump, then it has created a larger dump. Okay. So now you can see the output here, right? The size of mini dump is just 5 MB, which is written in zero point 0.2 seconds, whereas the size of core dump is 337 MB. So it's such a large file. Okay. So let's try to create some other dump files. Yeah. So this is interesting. So instead of notepad, I'll say 3576. That's the process ID. So now you can see here that it is creating multiple mini dump files. Okay. After every 5 seconds, it is creating multiple dump files. Okay. So it has created 3 dump files over an interval of 5 seconds. Now if we try to access the dump file, so let's say notepad msh npmp file. Let's try to open it. See. So again, this content is not in a readable format. Okay, so you need again a special application to examine the content of dump files. The goal of dump file is to know why a particular application has crashed. So mini dump will just store the essential information, whereas core dump will store the complete information. Okay, so that's why the size of mini dump is just 5 MB, and the size of core dump is, it depends. So you might have seen in two cases. In one case it was around 55 MB, and in another case it was around 337 MB. Okay, so we can stop here and continue tomorrow. If you have got any doubts, let me know. Any doubts? Okay, thank you. Then we can end the call here.
Thanks, Captain.
Good. Thank you, sir. We can close the session. Omelette, omelette. Love it.